Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best of the AFC West podcast. I am your host, Chiefs fan Prather Silverthorn, and with me, as always, I've got Broncos fan Chris Crouse,
Go Broncos!
Raiders fan Tyler Stevens,
Raiders!
and Chargers fan Sumanth Gollapudi.
Go Charge, go!
All right, so we've been gone for a couple of weeks. Had Hurricane Matthew sort of throw a wrench in my life. Had knocked me without power for a while, and then we had some technical difficulties after that. So, but we are back now, and better than ever. So we got to talk about what was last week, week 7 already.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
And preview week 8. Season is going much too fast for my liking. Anyway, let's jump straight into the news as we got our weekly segment, the Chargers injury report. So take it away, Sumanth.
Gotcha. All right, so, the last few weeks we haven't actually had any significant injuries, but this time it's pretty significant. Defensive lineman Karan Reed, the guy I've been going off about, pretty much all the time since, the start of the season, was a fantastic rotational player for us. Tore his ACL, obviously, and he's out for the season. He was placed on IR the other day. Cornerback Pierre Desir, who was waived previously in order to pull up Chris Landrum, was re-signed in a corresponding move. And Hunter Henry and Craig Mager are almost our starting players at this point, a tight end and corner respectively, are on the concussion protocols. Both of them got concussions in the Atlanta game. And as a quick side note for Karan Reed on IR means that Darius Phylum will re-enter the rotation. As some of you may remember, he was our starting defensive lineman for the first 4 games in absence of Joey Bosa, and he was a healthy scratch the past few weeks. And that's all I've got for our injury report.
Oh, nice and short this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Surprising, isn't it?
We've got a Broncos injury report this week.
Yeah, good timing, right when we play the Chargers. I guess you guys are rubbing off on us 2 weeks ago. We caught the bug.
I'd rather you have it than us, let's be honest. But, injuries are bad either way.
Hopefully it stops here. But
yeah.
Anyway, first up is C.J. Anderson. Unfortunately, had a knee injury, and it was quite a dramatic series of events in the news watching this one, because at first they were saying that it was a torn ACL, and he got on Twitter and was like, false, it is not a torn ACL, wait for the news, and then that comment was deleted, and he had another one about it which was also deleted, so everyone was back and forth wondering what was happening. But anyway, I guess he's only supposed to be out a couple weeks, and it's not a torn ACL. And I heard it was some sort of bone bruise, but I don't even know the details at this point. I don't know what to believe. But Booker will start, and I think that'll be okay. Capri Bibbs will probably mix in as well, and Kubiak has always liked him, and he'll be out there to prove himself just as much as Booker. So it'll be interesting as far as the run game goes. Also, Brandon Marshall is day-to-day with a hamstring injury, and Corey Nelson will play if he's out. DeMarcus Ware, an injury, someone who was injured a while back with an ulnar fracture in his arm, which is one of the bones in his forearm. He practiced today, and so we might see him against the Chargers, which would be very interesting since he wasn't there for the last matchup. And Aqib Talib, Matt Paradis, and Sylvester Williams are also dealing with minor injuries, and they set out today. And also, not included in the injury report, in other news, A.J. Derby, tight end, was traded to the Broncos from the Patriots for a 5th-round pick. And this is a position where we've struggled to get production. Virgil Green was supposed to be our pass-catching target this year, but so far that hasn't worked out. But obviously the Patriots are pretty deep at tight end with Gronkowski and Martellus Bennett out there. And Belichick has sung the praises of Derby, calling his tight end group the deepest that he's ever seen. And, maybe that's just coach speak. Maybe he's just trying to talk him up so he can trade him to us, and stick us with someone who sucks, but he was a 6th round pick for them last year, and we got him for a 5th round pick. So I hope he's better than, what they hoped, or I hope he's worth, going up instead of down. I wish we would have, got a little better value out of that, considering they got Martellus Bennett for a 4th round pick, I think. Anyway, they obviously know how to find value in trades, and I hope that, this works out good for us, but he's never caught a pass in regular season, so.
Yeah, had you ever heard of this guy before the trade?
Nope.
No.
Me neither.
And actually, it's fair to note that the AJ Derby trade happened very shortly after New England traded with Detroit for Kyle Van Noy, the former 2nd round pick linebacker out of BYU. So this was basically almost New England trading a player just so they can get Van Noy on their roster. And on the injuries, I think with C.J. Anderson out for at least the Chargers game, and a lot of these other starters only either sitting out for these practices or what have you, that it might affect the play of the Denver Broncos. I mean, these are significant starters. This is Brandon Marshall. Yeah. We're talking Aqib Talib, Matt Paradis, Sly Williams. These are big players. I mean, Talib and Paradis particularly.
Yeah, but I think they're
yeah.
expected to play. I think they were just resting today, but it is something to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the most likely scenario, but the fact that they all were sitting out is kind of concerning to me, at least.
Yeah.
Going back to your end of the deal. So.
For sure.
All right. Got some injury news out of the Raiders camp. So.
Well, a little less depressing than that injury news. So we have Mario Edwards Jr. has finally flown to Florida to practice with the Raiders. He's not expected to play this week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but we could possibly see him return next week against the Denver Broncos when his IR designation is actually up. If he has good practice this week and is able to practice next week, we could see a return of that defensive player. Also, another defensive player that could be returning in the next few weeks if the league allows is Aldon Smith. He was suspended for a year for the NFL's the public policy it's some stupid policy where you have to act a certain way in public because that has totally everything to do with your football persona. He was suspended for a year and has to apply for reinstatement to be allowed by the league back in because it's basically like a banishment, kind of similar to the Josh Gordon case. So we'll see if Goodell wills him to play in the NFL again, especially after the surfacing of that video of him allegedly him smoking pot. It's kind of suspect.
Gotta defend the shield.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That terrible marijuana.
Oh, dear. All right, well, a couple items out of Kansas City. Mitchell Schwartz, our right tackle, is banged up. Sort of up in the air whether or not he'll play. I mean, there's still a chance of him playing this week. Our rookie cornerback, DJ White, who's certainly been up and down this season, he had surgery on his hand, so he'll be out for a couple weeks. That makes us even thinner at cornerback behind Marcus Peters. So that's something to watch out for there. And Jamal Charles, who last week going into the game against the Saints experienced some knee swelling, which limited his game time. He ended up getting 1 carry for 0 yards. He is practicing again, and by all accounts he looks good. So how much we'll use him, I have no idea. Nobody knows, but we'll see this week.
All right.
Well,
on to the Week 7 games.
Yeah, let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the show here. First game we're going to talk about: Oakland 33, Jacksonville 16, and the Raiders win another game, and the Jaguars are terrible, especially Blake Bortles.
First, before we get into Blake Bortles' terribleness, could we talk about some two fools on this Jaguars team, Jalen Ramsey and Malik Jackson? So Sunday in the Raiders-Jags game, Jaguars defensive tackle, former Broncos defensive tackle Malik Jackson was flagged on an iffy roughing the passer call. I don't exactly agree with the call, but I mean, hey, Jeff Triplett calls what he feels like. So this gifted the Raiders some extra yardage on a first down, but the veteran, quote unquote, just could not let it go. He knows the rules, and he cussed out a ref to his face. That gets him an extra 15 yards on top of the already 15 yards on the play and sends him to the bench. Next play, they play without him. He comes back in, and he's still mad. I was about to cuss there, sorry. He's still mad and still cursing at the refs. Finally gets another 15 yards and is thrown out the game because it's 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. The league's new rule on that situation. So that's fine. It's done at that point. Like, honestly, a player that they paid a lot of money to gets thrown out of a blowout loss. It's whatever. He'll come back next week. But closer to the end of the game, when the Raiders were like about to punt the ball away on a 4th and 26, I believe, Marquette King, it's a low snap. It like glides off the ground. He sees he's about to be tackled, and he runs it literally 26 yards or 27, I think, for the first down. But on the other side of the play, Jalen Ramsey, playing gunner, is in a fight with undrafted rookie Johnny Holton. He literally locks up with this dude because apparently he was talking too much trash to him. So they both get thrown out the game. Yeah. They both get thrown out the game. So they trade their top cornerback, their first-round pick, for an undrafted rookie wide receiver who sees the field maybe 3 plays a game. It's just, I don't know what's going on with this team, but it seems like there's no control over this locker room. And so I'll move away from that onto some cons for this team. It was a 33-16 win, but I mean, there's always some bad parts. The team kind of went into the half with what was a 20-6 lead, and they came out of the half, and the defense and the special teams were on the roll, but the offense was in prevent offense mode, where Bill Musgrave likes to call his 3 runs up the middle and then a short pass screen that gets tackled for like 2-yard gain or a 3-yard loss. So we basically keep giving the ball back to Jacksonville, or like our defense will get a turnover or our special teams will get a good play and we'll be in their territory and we'll just kick a field goal. So, I mean, Janikowski had a great day, but that's not going to help us really drive the score up on teams. And you could see that the Jaguars actually had a chance to try to come back in that game when they scored that touchdown to Julius Thomas, which I'll get to later. It's the constant obvious runs and the short passes that kind of kill this offense, and it kind of kills momentum as well in the game and gives the other team a chance to open it back up, which is kind of not a good thing. Even though we did get the convincing win, it shows some signs of things to be corrected later. Back to that Julius Thomas touchdown, Malcolm Smith, it should not have been a touchdown. Smith literally had the ball in his hands. Julius Thomas went over his back and snatched it from him. And it's something you kind of see from Malcolm Smith all the time. He's always in position, and he makes some really good plays, and then he just kind of gives up a stupid play. And literally that one was a 7-point swing in a game that was pretty much already over. Finally, Jeff Triplett. How does this dude have a job anymore? He looks more lost out there than a 4-year-old in a whorehouse, and he and his crew seem to actually be worse than the replacement refs. It baffles me how many unnecessary calls he made just so he'd have his allotted TV time. I'm not going to go into each horrible call because we'll be here for another 2 hours, but just know if your team has a game with Triplett's crew on the schedule, beware because he's literal cancer. Now, pros. This team was actually collapsed in the pocket this game. As for the interior defensive line, they decided to step up even without the presence of Mario Edwards. The rookie Jihad Ward, the vet Danica Autry finally decided to join Stacey McGee to reignite the pass rush. They constantly pushed the pocket into Bortles' laps, so Mack and Irvin could eventually get to the quarterback. And this sent Bortles running all day and made his inaccuracy problems even worse. Bortles, by the way, looked terrible. His throwing motion, actually, there was a screen cap of one of his throws where his arm went so far down, he actually looked like he was doing an Egyptian pose, like you kind of see in hieroglyphs sometimes. Like the ball was backwards under his butt. Like I don't know how he actually can throw in the NFL with a motion like that. Like I don't know what's going on with their quarterback coach, but I mean, let's not pile on the Jaguars too much. They do that themselves. Smith and Emerson, another pro. This was a great game for Sean Smith, DJ Hayden, and David Emerson, who all individually looked great out there. They're finally starting to look like a cohesive secondary that we'd all wish they'd become this offseason. Murray's return. Carr didn't throw too many touchdowns because he really didn't have to. He'd get the team down there, and Latavius Murray would literally punch it in if it was anything 15 yards or less. He was the goal line and short yardage presence we desperately needed the past 2 weeks, and he was able to extend drives and run for 2 touchdowns with only 18 rushes for 59 yards. That 3.3 yards per carry Melvin Gordon stat, you know. Some of which may be because of Musgrave's play calling, but let's let it go. Another pro, we put up a lot of points and didn't really concede many. The play call didn't really make a difference because we finally had a blowout win. We're 5-2, but this is the first win that we don't think it could have gone the other way. The offense kept scoring, defense kept them out of the end zone. Even though we more than doubled the points they put on the board, watching this game, you kind of feel like the offense left some points on the field. But, you know, we'll let it go unless it shows again next week. And lastly, the team didn't really play to their level. They got conservative, but you kind of felt like the Raiders were the better team on the field literally the entire game. It's really a statement that these aren't the old Raiders who would play to the level all of their opponents, like play up to opponents that were better and play down to opponents that were at level or even worse and find a way to lose the game either way. So things are looking up, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I checked the box score. It was like partway through the second quarter. It was pretty close to halftime, and Blake Bortles had 8 yards passing.
Yeah,
so.
No. he was... I honestly think he should probably be benched at this point. Just to help, not as in like he's terrible, he sucks, he shouldn't be able to play anymore. More of like give the dude some time to actually sit and practice and learn how to play the game because he doesn't look like he really knows how to play.
Even playing at that point, then is he just the snap taker?
That's literally he can't throw the ball. He's honestly. I think they'd be better off with Terrell Pryor throwing for them. Or even, hell, Johnny Manziel.
Jeez. Okay, well Pryor's not that bad at quarterback.
Robinson. Stick him back there.
Yeah, they can do that. There you go.
The great Hall of Fame ball hander.
And just on another, I just want to add something else one thing to Tyler's point. And I know he doesn't really want to go back to this, but onto the foolishness that Ramsey and Malik Jackson had. It reminded me a little bit of the San Diego game where we played Jacksonville, and Jared Odrick did something extremely similar in the sense that he was called for some penalties, and I don't know if he was.
They just go crazy once they get flagged. It doesn't really make any sense. And I think Paul Posluszny he's like the only one with his head on straight on that defense. He kind of needs to step up and kind of put them in their place, or show some leadership. I know it's really not just his job. You got to have the defensive coordinator and the linebackers coach and the head coach kind of step up. But I mean, at that point, if you want to really save this season, you gotta have the one guy, at least somebody in the locker room, to kind of say, "Hey, just chill the hell out,"
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, I'm just only agreeing with the fact that it's just been a chronic problem for Jacksonville, at least from them playing against the AFC West. I don't know what else to say on that front beyond it's just happening against us, unless there's
Ramsey had the problem with Steve Smith. They didn't end up getting in a fight on the field, but it was a Twitter fingers getting itchy.
That's right. Yeah. The whole Ramsey Steve Smith thing. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's the whole youthful energy and exuberance thing, but there's a point where you got to tone that down, and I think Gus is going to get held responsible for that.
Yeah, because the point is he literally came out after the game and said if that happened 9 more times, he'd do it the exact same way because you don't get to disrespect him. I mean, first of all, you're a rookie. You get to disrespect you, and second of all, you got to realize how you're hurting your team at this point, because right after he left, Amari Cooper caught a 30-yard bomb. He had basically made Carr literally look to Crabtree the whole game because Carr didn't want to test him. I mean, Cooper was open at times, but Carr was like, whatever, I'm just going to throw to Crabtree, which would be shorter games. But Cooper literally could turn it on once Ramsey was gone. It was pointless.
Well, there you go. We'll see what Jacksonville does the rest of the year, I guess.
All right.
They'll play. I mean, Kansas City and Denver at some point too. So.
Oh, I look forward to seeing Ramsey versus Demaryius or Ramsey versus Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, with that win, Oakland moves to 5-2. The spooky Raiders everybody was predicting in the offseason. Looks like it's coming true. Kansas City also won this week, 27-21 at Arrowhead. We opened up the game pretty well. Our offense actually, we were balanced. We ran the ball very well. Alex Smith actually took some deep shots in the first half of this game.
What?
Yeah, he was only mildly successful in completing them, but it kept the safeties away from the line of scrimmage. It opened up the shorter throws that Alex Smith likes to do, and it really opened up the running game. Spencer Ware was able to rip off 7, 8, 9-yard runs very consistently. Pretty much we were able to march the ball up and down the field. And Spencer Ware, man, he is on pace for over 2,000 yards from scrimmage this season. So he has filled in very nicely for Jamal Charles. He's only 24 years old, so Spencer Ware is definitely the future of this franchise, and it's very exciting to see him play so well. And I've been talking about him all season, but Tyreek Hill, finally, Alex Smith connects with him on a fade route, a nice long touchdown pass where Hill really tracked the ball very well in the air, was tightly contested by the defender, and Hill makes a one-handed catch in the end zone. So he's definitely been worth the draft pick and the little bit of controversy that came with drafting him, but he's got his head on straight now, and he's playing very good football. Then in the second half, things sort of fell apart a little bit. A couple weeks ago when the Steelers just absolutely beat the crap out of us, I mentioned that Andy Reid needs to take some notes from Mike Tomlin and Todd Haley about how they went for the throat against a team that was struggling. Well, we didn't do that. We had the Saints on the ropes. We were up 21-7 going into halftime, and then we just got way too conservative. All the deep passes were no more. It made it a little more difficult to run the ball and to throw underneath because the defense was expecting it. And then I don't know why we decided to play prevent defense against Drew Brees, because basically all you're doing is you're sort of eliminating that small chance that he's going to connect with Brandon Cooks for an 80-yard touchdown and score, on a drive that only takes 15 seconds. But you're basically ensuring that Drew Brees is going to march down the field in under 2 minutes and score. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And we ended up winning the game, but there was a drive in the second half where the Saints had marched all the way down the field, and we can't stop them at all with this prevent defense. And Ron Parker ends up punching the ball out of Mark Ingram's hands down near the 5-yard line, and we force the turnover. If that doesn't happen, this game could have been a lot different. And even with that, the Saints did have an opportunity with a little bit of time left at the end to score the game-winning touchdown. Obviously, they didn't do that, but you don't want to have that situation giving the ball back to Drew Brees at the end of the game. And I think that could have completely been avoided if we had stuck to our game plan in the first half and not taken our foot off of the gas pedal. But hopefully we can learn from that. Andrew Luck, we're going against him this week. That's another dangerous quarterback you don't want to give extra opportunities to. So, yeah, other than that, I really don't have a whole lot. Daniel Sorensen had a pick six this game, and Marcus Peters played. His reputation is really, starting to affect the way teams play against him. Drew Brees didn't really target him at all. I don't have this. I couldn't find the stats of how many catches he allowed, but I think there were only. I can only remember 2, and that was in the second half when we were playing our prevent defense. So Drew Brees just decided not to test Peters at all, and it's really cool to finally have a cornerback that people just straight up avoid. once we get a pass rush back, when Justin Houston gets healthy, we can pressure quarterbacks into bad decisions, which will make Peters even more lethal. So that's all I got for this game. Really, it went about as I expected. We ran the ball and we controlled the clock.
All right.
Man, nobody's got anything.
Yeah, it was a pretty boring game, honestly.
And the Chiefs are a boring team.
That's why nobody really thinks of them in the playoff race. They're like, you don't really remember that they're there,
Yeah, it's I don't want to say this because I get so much crap for being a Smith hater, but like Chris Conley, if he was on literally any other team, I think he'd be a household name. He is so good, but he just never gets the opportunity. Every time Smith gives him the opportunity, he makes the play. It just never happens. So, oh well. Maybe they'll develop some chemistry eventually. But with that win, Chiefs moved to 4-2, and the Chargers ended up defeating the Atlanta Falcons 33-30 in overtime. Sumanth, This was an exciting game. I'm sure people will have more things to say about this game than the Chiefs game. So, why don't you start it off?
All right, sure. I mean, and for our audience here, of course, as we said before, we have notes that we look at, individually and as a collective before the games. My first literal point was just excitement that we have 2 wins in a row. So, I'm excited for the win streak that we've now just started and hopefully won't stop. And something else that hopefully won't stop is Joey Bosa. He is actually literally unstoppable right now. He, at least in the Atlanta game, he had 2 sacks, 5 tackles, and another fun stat that I thought was interesting for our particular division and this particular podcast is that he is the first player in 10 years to have 4 or more sacks in his first 3 NFL games. The last person to do it was former Denver Bronco Elvis Dumervil, which is That's pretty high praise. Let's think about it. Dumerville's been a fantastic player for a long time.
He's a good player, but he can't use a fax machine.
It's true. Thankfully, fax machines have nothing to do with him playing football. So I'll let him off the hook for that one. And on top of that, the defense as a whole had a very, very good second half. Atlanta came into this game as the NFL's top scoring offense. They leave still as the NFL's top scoring offense, but the second half they only scored 3 points, and that's fantastic. If you hold a team like that to 3 points with so many injuries on the field, we're starting our corner 3 and whoever the heck else we have in our backfield, and we can hold Julio Jones to not score any touchdowns. I mean, that's something, right? And if I wanted to isolate more players from our defense and single them out, Denzel Perryman had a fantastic game. Clutch in 6. He came up clutch in big situations. That interception in the fourth quarter, which was pretty much set up by Joey Bosa's mere presence. I think one of our fans on the subreddit was pointing out that basically the 2 false starts that happened prior to the interception were basically from players who Joey Bosa was lined up in front of. So if he's scaring players into making false starts, that's already a huge boost for the team. Let alone the fact that he's going at a pace for pressures and all these other numbers that are literally breaking records or what have you. Tyrell Williams is a wide receiver on offense, undrafted free agent in the past, stepped up, make big-time plays. He's got 7 catches for 140 yards. That means he's averaging 20 yards a catch. That's pretty much Malcolm Floyd numbers. And if we have multiple receivers that can stretch the field with Williams and Inman and Benjamin, that only helps our team, moving forward. Phillip Rivers continues to be a bright spot in clutch situations. This is another clutch win for him. He had 371 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, which was deflected off of Dexter McCluster's hands and into the waiting arms of Deion Jones. That happened in the first quarter or something. And Melvin Gordon still didn't have that great a game, and I'll go on that later. I mean, unless you had him on fantasy, then he had an amazing game. But the biggest run that I saw from him today, or on Sunday, was that 13-yard run on a third down play, bouncing out of a tackle from Deion Jones and running outside to the left. And, that was amazing. That was one of the best plays I think I've seen all season from him, and that gave me so much just happiness and joy. You have no idea.
I I get that it was, a big moment within the game, like the situation, but
Sure.
the fact that you are so happy about a 13-yard run from Melvin Gordon tells me everything I need to know about him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole play calling deal. Ken Wisnut wants to run him up the gut, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it makes the defenses think that, he's going to run the ball at some point, and somehow it hasn't always stopped the offense from making plays, so that's, I guess, enough of a reason for Melvin to punch it up for 2 or 3 yards every time, I guess. I don't know, but there it is. And the negatives of this game, there's a few negatives, of course, and the biggest thing was that second quarter. That was one of the worst quarters of football I think I've seen in a very long time, and I'm speaking with the Chiefs game in mind when I say that was one of the worst second quarters I've ever seen. It was a litany of mistakes, a litany of just errors by the team on offense and defense, even special teams. And the cherry on top was the fumble return for a touchdown, and Atlanta got 4 sacks on Phillip Rivers, so that's not good. And I couldn't nitpick on the play calls, as I just said earlier, but we won the game, so I'm just not going to do that at this point. I don't feel like it, because I do that every week. And back to Melvin Gordon, despite the touchdowns, the numbers, and the overall yardage numbers that he had 68 yards rushing, 53 receiving, 3 total touchdowns, which means if you had him on fantasy, you had an amazing game, and if you didn't win, what the hell were you doing? No, seriously. The run game is still not working regardless. Like, Melvin Gordon still has about 3.1 yards a carry, which feeds into Prather's idea of he is literally the worst.
He's not literally the worst. I mean, he's above Trent Richardson at least, so.
I mean, he's averaging more than 3 yards a carry. So he is better than Trent in that respect. But, yeah, there's that. And as I said, that's kind of Wiz's MO, balance the run and the pass plays and force them to try to account for both. And as I said just now with the special teams, they need to get their act together because they have not looked good at all this season. I mean, beyond Lambeau's kicking. Kaiser hasn't had a bad game, so I think the bad games have been shooken out of him. But the kickoffs and the punt returns just don't look good. Griff Whalen muffed a kickoff in the second quarter, and that stuck us to the 8-yard line, and you just can't do that. You can't do that consistently and win games. So, we have a new special teams coordinator this year in Craig Ackerman, who was promoted last year from the interim tag, and he's supposed to be a bright young coach. So I don't know what to tell him beyond just keep plugging away, and hopefully some magic happens and everything starts to work by the second half of the season. So that's all I've got for this game, and we can move on to the Monday night game in Denver now.
Cool. So with that win, San Diego now improves to 3-4.
3-4.
Almost to 500. So close.
Yay!
And apparently, according to San Diego Charger fans in San Diego, they're going to the Super Bowl now.
Hey!
Well, they got to fill the stadium first.
If we can beat Denver, I think that'll be much easier said than. I think that'll be a much more likely possibility with Tennessee and Miami coming to town right after that.
And we can fill your stadium with Broncos fans.
Well, Monday Night Football, the Brock Osweiler revenge game, did not go as planned for the Houston Texans as Denver rolls over the Texans 27-9. As the AFC West went undefeated this week, by the way. So good job, everybody.
Hey.
On that note, I think we are the best division in the league. Just as an aside.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, of course we are. 3-4 for us.
I know we believe that, but I think that everyone else out there needs to start believing that because we got some good teams. I think.
Okay, yeah, and
I think our 4 teams are in the top 7 for the AFC.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Even with our 3-4 record, we basically took a lot of teams to the shed before throwing them away, before being full Ron Burgundy and handing them back. But,
honestly, if you think about it, in the AFC, the only team I would rank with our 4 teams are the Patriots. The Bills are iffy. The Steelers lost Roethlisberger and literally fell off a cliff.
Well, he's coming back. When he's in, it'll be.
When he's in, then he kicks off one of our teams. But honestly, top 5 our 4 teams are top 5 in the AFC.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely a thing. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
Chris, how bad was Brock Osweiler?
Well, he was pretty bad. I think the Broncos were just as good as he was bad. So it made for kind of a blowout for us, which was a lot. Well, it wasn't as fun to watch as you would expect, but it felt good after a couple losses. So the game actually started out with 3 riveting 3-and-outs from us and them, two of them by us, and they scored first with a field goal after those 3-and-outs. And then we went on to punt again after another 3-and-out. So we started off kind of bad, and it didn't look like things were gonna go as well as they did. But after, I think it was by the end of the first quarter, we scored our first touchdown with C.J. Anderson with a good drive from the whole team. It was pretty balanced. And later on, not too long after, in the same quarter, we scored another touchdown with a pass from Demaryius Thomas, a beautiful throw from Trevor Siemian. And we really stayed pretty balanced the rest of the game. Once the running game started going, both C.J. Anderson and Devontae Booker were running really well. The passing game got going too, and even though Simeon didn't have a lot of yards, he was efficient with his throws like he has been the whole year. And our offense really won it as a team this time. We did have 2 more holding calls early on. One of them I don't think was a very good call, but the other one definitely was. Russell Okung, and that was our big problem last week. We had I think 5 big holding penalties, one that brought back a touchdown, and obviously the refs were looking out for that because right away Russell Okung I think got called, and that brought back a pretty big run from Booker. And then there was another one that brought back a nice catch from Demaryius Thomas, and that one it was so close. I didn't think it was a hold, but it was good that we got it under control early, and we didn't have any more big ones for the rest of the game. I don't remember any other ones that really mattered the rest of the game, but the offense was good. CJ had 100 yards, and he ended up injured, but you wouldn't have known it watching the game. I don't even remember where it happened. But Booker was really good as well, so I think he's going to carry on the torch next week against San Diego with a lot of vigor and whatever other adjective you want to use there. Everyone on the offense, like I said, played well. And the defense, of course, they played amazing. Von Miller played so well that he caused the right tackle on the Texans to tear both of his patellar tendons.
Yikes!
He made
oh my god,
his career.
Yeah,
and,
probably most likely.
And let me just throw out there, Derek Newton is a pretty good right tackle, so that's a big loss for Houston.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the guy because that stinks. But
yeah.
Understatement of the year.
Hard-hitting analysis.
I ripped up something in both my legs. I probably can't walk now. Oh, I guess it stinks.
No one wants to see, the guy on the other side of the ball really get hurt that bad to where it's career ending. Sure, yeah, it's bruise him up a bit and make him, break his spirit so we can win. Sure, yeah, everyone, wants to see that, but you don't want to see a guy really get hurt. And it's not fun to see, but back to Prather's question of how bad Brock Osweiler was. After the game, I heard that a group of Texans fans started a GoFundMe to try and buy out Osweiler's $70 million contract. So they've been pretty disappointed, let's just say.
Somehow he's been worse than Brian Hoyer. It turns out Brian Hoyer was actually okay all along. Well, he's done in Chicago this year.
I looked it up. He is only better QBR-wise this year than 2 quarterbacks.
Is one of them Blake Bortles?
No.
Fitzpatrick.
He's worse than Blake
Bortles? Fitzpatrick is one of them. Yeah, he's worse than Bortles.
Case Keenum.
Now, the other one is one of your favorite quarterbacks, Prather.
Oh, God.
Really?
One of my favorite quarterbacks.
Oh, one of your very favorites. You'd probably rather have him than Alex Smith on your team, I'm pretty sure.
I'm stumped.
Okay, it was Blaine Gabbert.
Oh, really? My God.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know me, giant Blaine Gabbert fan.
Well, anyway, he's better than Blaine Gabbert. So, maybe he is worth 72
Silver linings? Some silver linings in that one. $72 million quarterback, better than literally the guy that Jacksonville ruined.
Yep. While we're on the subject, though, he is being paid $72 million over 4 years. 37 of that guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and $12 million as a signing bonus.
Jesus.
And he's got a 71.9 QBR, number
Oh my
30
God.
in the league.
Elway got so lucky on that. Elway got literally so lucky.
Oh yeah. The whole fan base got lucky. We dodged a major bullet there. But Simeon has a contract 4 years for $2.3 million, with a $52,000 signing bonus. What is that, like a 24th of Osweiler's signing
Yeah,
bonus?
Brock
Something like
Osweiler. You can find that loose change on his couch.
Yeah.
And his QBR is a 91.8.
Oh my goodness.
He's 19th overall. So
Things always work out for the Broncos.
Some bowling magic going on there.
it's something special, but we got pretty lucky there for sure.
Yeah.
It came down to a lot of luck and a lot of it's all Osweiler's fault. He's doing in his own shit, I guess. Really,
Truly.
he made his bed. He's gonna lie in it, and at this point, I think Denver fans can let go. Finally, we had our walk through the grocery store where we saw our ex and she was dressed in her sweats and growing a gut, and we were looking spiffy with our new duds and new haircut, and we
God, I just have to say right now, I gotta say, like, this analogy and Tyler's 4-year-old at a stripper place analogy were like the most 0 to 100 things I think I've heard today.
Well, anyway, I don't know if you guys watched the game, but he was pretty bad. We haven't really talked about why, but he had 2 fumbles, and one of them was maybe the worst fumble I've ever seen in my life.
What makes it worse is the Broncos Osweiler was sacked once, but the Broncos didn't have a sack.
Yeah.
What?
He sacked himself by literally throwing the ball away.
Yeah, he threw a fumble for one. I've never seen somebody throw a fumble before.
Mark Sanchez. You haven't seen many Mark Sanchez highlights.
It was such a bad fumble that when Chris Harris picked it up, he didn't know he had recovered a fumble, so he just stopped. And they called the play dead because he didn't go anywhere, but it was our ball.
What? Okay. I
I
didn't watch the game. I will be very honest, but wow, that's bad.
Go Google that highlight because it's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
It's worth it. It's worth the time.
I can't wait. I'm
gonna leave it there. We won the game. It was good. I fell asleep in the fourth quarter, and we scored 2 field goals after that, and that was pretty much all that happened.
Sweet. Well, with that win, Broncos go to 5-2. So that means Oakland and Denver are tied at 5-2. Kansas City
Woo!
half game back at 4-2, and the Chargers are 2 games back at 3-4. Anybody's race right now. So really tight division. So yeah, let's start previewing Week 8. As the 2 pirate teams are going to clash head-to-head as Oakland, the Raiders, go against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have a fantasy question for you, Tyler.
Yes.
I've got Derek Carr and Jameis Winston. Who do I start?
Play Carr. Play Carr at all costs, man. Play
On the
Carr.
road,
I'm telling you. On the road. Well, I mean, we're 4-0 on the road. And think about this. Okay. Our secondary is starting to kind of bend together, and I think this is the perfect time for our secondary to kind of start killing some teams. And Tampa Bay is looking like the perfect team. I don't think they got a win at home this year, and they haven't really looked good at home this year. I feel like Jameis Winston is going to lay a goose egg this game. So I mean, I would take the safe bet, 100%. Go with Carr.
All right.
Start the car, man.
That's a
Start.
tough.
Start.
Oh,
Ooh.
So on to game analysis. First player to look at in this game is Jaquiz Rogers. Mr. I'm a Jaquiz in your face.
The jizz man.
oh my God.
Coming into the second half of the Florida series, the most important task is containing Peyton Barber and Jaquiz Rogers. Those two ran wild on the 49ers last week, albeit the 49ers aren't a great team, but their defense is not too bad. That two-headed attack where the backs make big plays could spell doom for this defense, who's always liable to give up a big play. The second part is famous Jameis. Part of the reason for the success of the rushing attack against the Niners was the run-pass option with Jameis Winston. This really wasn't much of a problem with our defense against Tennessee and Marcus Mariota, who boasts a similar style of offense. But famous Jameis can boast one factor that the marauding Mariota can't. And can you guys guess who that factor is?
Mike Evans?
Yes, you got it. It's that boy, Mike Evans. He seems to be really excelling at the backyard style of receiver play, where he runs around while Jameis Winston fakes being a running back and scrambles around in the pocket. So whoever covers Evans, I think it's a better matchup with Sean Smith, but the Raiders may want Emerson's quickness to keep up with him. They cannot let him break the coverage and make plays once the pocket is broken by Winston, because we know it will be. So on to the Oakland Raiders in this matchup. Do we finally have our starting offensive line this game? The Raiders may finally have the entire 5 lineup back this game, because Menelik Watson, who was thought to be ready last week, was sat in favor of Austin Howard against the Jaguars. With Watson in the game, Carr is virtually untouchable. To add to that, the added pass protection of Latavius Murray, who returned last week, we could see a big game out of this Raiders offense. So when it comes down to thinking about this game, it's really hard. The Buccaneers are a hard team to gauge. You have the 5-2 Raiders facing the 3-3 Bucs in Tampa Bay, and you don't really have a feel for how it's going to go. So, I mean, when we've seen the Bucs when it matters, the Bucs really don't look like a good team. I mean, you just have to look at that matchup against the Carolina Panthers, where both of those teams are literally trying to give the game to the other team. I mean, even their kicker was like choking hard as like I'm not going to make up an analogy for that one. I don't want to shock Sumanth. Everything in the world, but like when they think they're going to get destroyed, everything in the world goes right for them and they wreck their opponent. Part of that reason is they thrive off of the big play. They were losing to the 49ers, and before some perfect interceptions changed momentum in that game, and long runs really placed the dagger in the opposition, you saw just big plays kind of go in their favor, and the Niners kind of sat down and let it happen. These are the big plays that make our defense the worst in the league and allow teams to play us close when they really shouldn't. The edge we have on them is our team doesn't really make a lot of mistakes on the offensive side of the ball, and they really win when their opponents make more mistakes, and the Raiders aren't really a team that is really killing themselves like that. We have a very opportunistic defense as well, who can take advantage of opposing mistakes, and the Bucs offense also likes to turn the ball over, but we don't typically give the ball away very much. As I said before, they play very conservatively, and sometimes to a fault that has protected the ball pretty much all season. So, in order to win this game, the Raiders must A, protect the ball, B, limit the big plays on defense, and C, kill the Watson and Evans connection. C, part 2, maybe get Latavius Murray involved. All of these things are very likely to happen for the Raiders, especially the way they've been playing on the road and the way the Bucs have been playing at home this year. And if everything goes right, this could be a very easy win. Do you want me to give my prediction now or to wait for everybody else?
No,
go for it.
Give it now. I'm going to go with 34-3. I want a big blowout. Yeah. It's looking that way.
All right. Well, yes, your secondary does seem to be improving. But I don't think Jameis Winston's going to have to do a whole lot this game because Rodgers is going to jaquiz all over your defense, and the Buccaneers are going to take this game 24-17.
I'll just hope that's the outcome. I just want to see how furious Tyler gets the next podcast. He'll be furious if they lose, and if I'm going to shoot in my prediction right now that I'm talking, I'm predicting the Raiders to win this game as well. I think, actually, another thing that I wanted to add on was that one of the biggest things I think that hampers the Buccaneers' offense was the loss of Vincent Jackson.
Very much.
I think he's out. I think he's out for the year. And I recently heard today over on Twitter that they were trying to trade for a wide receiver, and the Bucs are willing to either part with a pick or one of their 2 starting cornerbacks.
Which is very dumb. Very dumb. You go into facing Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. Let's get rid of a starting cornerback.
I mean, the whole complaint was that Jonathan Banks and Altron Werner have not been playing very well at all.
Just
so
imagine what they could do with Alshon Jeffrey, though.
Oh, man.
The Bears would never.
I think the Bears subreddit would just catch on fire. I think Chicago would be on fire if
they might actually riot at that point, honestly.
Yeah, with the World Series right behind them, they'll riot. And which would be the weirdest thing. But in terms of predictions, I'm predicting the Raiders will win this game. I'm calling it. I'm going to flip Prather's score 24-17.
Coolio.
All right, Chris, what do you get?
What the
Did
heck?
we lose him? I think we lost him.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I guess I put myself on mute. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call this one for Tampa Bay.
Oh, God.
And I think that Mike Evans is going to go off, and it's going to be difficult, and other car will show up and say, hey.
You keep wishing for that other car, but I mean...
And I think it'll be dandy. At least for Broncos fans. It'll be great.
What's the score?
I'm going to say 24-14.
I'll just hope that I'm wrong. I'd rather the Raiders lose, but I don't think they lose this game.
See?
Right.
See? Sumanth is playing with his head, not his heart, guys.
At this
I'm
point,
pretty level-headed when it comes to
I'm
Charger
so
fans.
far back in the standings for our picks that I'm just wishing for what to happen.
Wait,
Hey,
what are the
that's not
records? Do you have the records offhand?
I'll have to tally them up. I can give it to us next week.
All right.
That'd be a good time, actually. It'll be week 8, and we can get that midway report going.
Exactly. So next game, Kansas City at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is literally the exact same team as New Orleans, where they have a great quarterback, an offense that can put up points, and no defense whatsoever, and they can't really run the ball either. So,
Hey,
everything.
Frank Gore's pretty good. I think he's a little better than.
Yeah, but their
He's like
offensive line
the
is
Steve Smith
so
of running
bad.
backs. He's just old.
True.
They can't run the ball. They've had he did run for 100 yards once this season, but that was like the first time since I think
Who knows when.
3 years that the Colts had
Yeah,
had
it was a long
100-yard
time.
rusher. It's
They just
pathetic,
don't-
is what it
They
is.
don't need to run the ball because they have Andrew Luck throwing.
Oh, they don't need to
all
run the
day.
ball because they're behind all the time.
Yeah, that's
Right.
So, I mean, everything I said covering the Saints game earlier applies to this. So, I mean, I really don't need to go into any detail here. Going to keep the ball on the ground. Spencer Ware is going to have a big day. And hopefully when we get ahead, not if, when we get ahead, we don't play prevent defense because
That's a
could
big
bite us
if.
in the butt. I think we're going to win this game, but it would absolutely be vintage Kansas City Chiefs if we lost against the Colts because that seems to always happen. But I think we're going to win. I think we control it on the ground, keep Andrew Luck off the field. We're going to win 24-17.
Okay, well, it's my turn. The problem with this and, the comparison to the Saints game is this is not in Kansas City, man. I think, the Chiefs probably go up pretty early and they get a good lead on there. They seem comfortable and, they play that whole prevent offense and prevent defense and Andrew Luck throws it into comeback mode and just, goes luck all over your faces. And I think this one is a comeback victory for the Colts, 34-27.
Jeez. All right. Well, off that note, I mean, both points I think that were raised by Prather and Tyler are pretty strong points. I mean, it's definitely a road game for Kansas City. Colts fans will show up in force regardless of the fact that the Colts are not that great a team, but they have strengths. The Colts have strengths, and they can put some points on you. I mean, we saw that against San Diego. They were messing it up all over the field too against us, and they still won the game. So, I mean, this could be a back and forth either way contest, but I think the Colts just have so many weaknesses that Kansas City should be able to overcome them. It should be a close game, but I think the Colts have enough weaknesses that Kansas City wins the game. I'm going to call it a 28-24 Kansas City victory.
Okay. Well, I'm going to split this completely and call it for the Colts. Because I agree that the Colts seem to always have our number as well. And they seem to be one of those teams you can't really predict. They'll come out one week and look amazing, and then the next week they'll look like they're not real football players. I think that they will have a good week at home against the prevent defense, and Andrew Luck will throw lots of touchdowns, probably late in the game. And I think it'll probably be pretty close, within a score, but I think they're going to win. Probably 30-24.
Okay. As long as T.Y. Hilton puts up points, that's all I need to know. That's all I need for my fantasy team, all right?
There will be many points. Many much.
Yay.
Even in losses, T.Y. Hilton puts up points.
Oh, heck yeah.
Well, the final game of the week is a divisional matchup between the Chargers and the Broncos.
Ooh.
And it's at Denver.
Yay, this again.
Sumanth. Yeah, it seems like we just talked about this. So.
We kind of just did.
So Sumanth,
Chris
go
being
ahead.
Yeah.
Start it
Chris
off.
being not excited is the best part of this right now. But I mean, just my quick hits on this. This is, I think, our biggest test for the rest of the season. Denver is still. We beat them 2 weeks ago, but Denver is still a fantastic football team. Let's not understate that. And you won the Super Bowl. I can't deny that from my head, unfortunately.
What a guy.
And
this is why I like the Chargers the best.
Believe me, not all of us are this classy and not all of us are this level-headed. So be lucky that I joined in. That I'm the guy who you guys tabbed for this podcast. But Denver now is more fully manned, at least with Kubiak back on the sidelines. I think the trade-off with C.J. Anderson, might even out with the play calling or what have you. But there we are. And we're going to Denver this time. This isn't going to be in San Diego. I can't even call it a home game because half our fans were Denver fans, I guess. And so we have to adjust to those weather conditions. And for those of you who haven't been to Denver, I actually have been to Denver, and it is harder to breathe up there. And it's because it's higher up. So if you have been to Denver...
Hard-hitting analysis.
This isn't a science podcast.
Well, it's a thing to note. So, I mean, you have to adjust for that. And...
Flat Earthers
as we said already,
disagree, but
I mean, it's true. So, and then Denver coming off of that performance against Houston, pretty strong performance, obviously. So, momentum's on both teams' side because we came off the comeback win in Atlanta. So, and we have a win streak going. So that's great for both teams, and it's going to come to a head right here. And I think whatever happens is, for the Chargers at least, is going to decide quite a bit for the rest of the season. Before I get into my matchup that I wanted to actually identify, there is a thing I found earlier today from ESPN that has a playoff probability leverage prediction thing, and it's more or less just a percentage ratio or something of, I guess, how likely it is to get to the playoffs. And there is a and right now they're highlighting the swings for depending on whether or not you win or lose for the Week 8 game. The Chargers have the biggest swing, I think, in this entire one, with literally a 28 or 29% chance or difference in our playoff probabilities if we win or lose the game. If we win the game, we have nearly a 50-50 chance of making it according to this thing. If we don't, we're below 20. So this is immensely important for San Diego, at least off of this metric, and I don't need to use a metric to say how important it is. If we go 4-4, our schedule for the rest of the way is literally the Houston Texans as the only winning team outside of our division. And Denver made them look stupid. So I'm not worried about them in the slightest. So if we beat Denver, we've got a really good shot. So my matchup to watch is, I mean, as usual, our front seven versus the Denver offense, their O-line and the quarterback situation. As I've noted before, our front seven has been extremely strong the last few games. We've controlled the tempo for opposing offenses for the most part when they apply pressure. Joey Bosa and Brandon Mebane have been tremendous additions to our defensive front and are forces to be reckoned with. Bosa on the rush, Mebane stopping the run badly. Denver's O-line, and I think Chris talked about this earlier, was still extremely suspect personnel-wise in terms of the amount of penalties they're giving up, and they were pretty grabby and causing false starts against us as well in the week 6. So if they don't clean that up, that's going to hurt them really badly in this game as well, just as it did in week 6. And
it's going to be tough with Paradis out because he's been one of our rocks this year. For the first few weeks, he was one of the best linemen in the game.
Absolutely. If Paradis is actually out for the game, and I don't think he will be, but if he is out for the game, then that's going to be a massive, demerit to Denver's offensive line stability. Like, I don't know who the backup is, but I don't think he practiced either. So that would be a problem.
Backup is, so.
I just saw the injury report. I just saw another center on it, so I'm expecting that to be the backup. So, Bosa has shown that his presence alone can create havoc. Like, he caused false starts by himself against Atlanta. Our linebackers and Jatavis Brown, Denzel Perryman, and Melvin Ingram will be key players here dealing with the run and the pass rush. I had this in my notes previously that C.J. Anderson needs to be contained first and foremost, but since he's not going to go, it's Devontae Booker and Capri Bibbs. And for those of you who don't know a lot about Devontae Booker, he is a north-south power runner, pretty much in the truest sense of the word. And he's still a little bit raw in what we can expect from him, but he is a powerful, powerful back. And if we don't wrap him up and take him down, he's going to give us an issue. So we have to, have our tackling down pat for a guy like Devontae Booker.
Like I've said to you guys, people forget that he was the second best back in the draft this year behind Zeke, so...
Yeah. Devontae Booker was a big-time player, and he can show that, and he showed that already. And if he pulls it off against San Diego, we're not going to have a fun time on defense. And on top of that, the Chargers just have to get after Simeon, just like they did in Week 6. I'm still kind of miffed that Bosa didn't get a sack on Simeon on the chase down, but we have to get after him. I mean, if it works, it takes pressure off of our defensive backs, who are all kind of nursed themselves back to health. I think Brandon Flowers finally, started to get back to practice this week. That's something I forgot to note. And if we can get our front seven to force pressure and stop the run, then our offense will do just as it did last week and move the ball down the field as much as it can and score points against Denver. So in a TLDR of this is the front seven needs to do what they did last time except better. That's my TLDR, and that's really my
ball
analysis.
Down the field and score some points.
The hard-hitting analysis you've come to expect from me. But yeah, just do what they did last time, but better. That's it. That's all I got.
Well,
Chris, your rebuttal.
I agree with a lot of what he says. I think it's going to come down for us to our offensive line. That's kind of been the key the whole year for us because our defense is a rock that we can, really count on. They are there every week doing their thing, and I think us being at home is a big advantage this time. We haven't scored less than 16 points at home this year. So our only loss at home was to Atlanta, best offense in the league, and that was a close game. I think we even had a chance to bring it back. And I think if things go our way and if we don't get too many penalties like we talked about on the offensive line, I think we'll be able to produce offensively. If we can throw the ball, that'd be great because I think that San Diego's rushing defense is a little bit better than their passing defense as far as I know.
Yes, that's true.
On the season, and so if we can get some shots downfield, get the run game going with our other backs, especially Booker, and then hopefully open it up so we can throw deep because that's something that Trevor's been criticized for, probably for good reason a little bit because he hasn't done it a lot, but I think if we can move the ball down the field, score some points, we'll be all right.
All right. What's your score?
I'm gonna say 21-10.
Oh, nobody saw that coming. Nobody.
The score again.
And
all right.
I would choose the Chargers if they weren't going against the Broncos, but Broncos, obviously.
Sure.
All right.
I see
Sumanth
that,
score?
and- yeah. And just another thing I have to point out, I mean, our rush defense is top 10 in the league, and that's something that we can go on about. And we haven't allowed a 1,000-yard rusher until the Atlanta game, or we haven't allowed 100 yards on the ground since until the
I would
1,000-yard
be
rusher.
surprised
Damn.
if you allowed 1,000 yards rushing.
And
Well,
you didn't even have Bosa that whole time, so
yeah, it's true. And so, I mean, we hold opponents on average to under 90 yards a game on the ground, so that's a positive for us. And if we can continue that against Denver, that'll be huge because it'll force Simeon to start throwing more passes, and that allows Bosa to go get after him. And if Bosa gets after him, he'll get sacks. That's what I've apparently learned.
this is why
And-
it comes down to the offensive line for us. 'Cause
Absolutely, comes down to that matchup: our front seven versus your offensive line. And I still am so wary about our penchant for turnovers. Like, we were still -1, I believe, in turnovers in the Atlanta game. We managed to win the game, but we were -1 in that. So I just can't. I still need to see some more from this team to fully buy into them.
I think
If they can clean up what's
go
up?
go ahead.
Yeah, if we can clean up our mistakes, I think, and just play the game that we do best, I think, just get after the offensive lines on other teams, just pressure the quarterback, stop the run, then we give enough and not make any mistakes, no turnovers or anything. We'll give enough opportunities for our offense to score touchdowns, and they've been really good at that, obviously, this season, as the Chargers offense is the second highest scoring offense in the NFL. So I'm still picking against San Diego. I want to see them clean up all their little mistakes. I want to see a more complete game out of them. I'm going for Denver here. I'm going to say a 24-20 win for Denver, and I just hope that the Chargers can prove me wrong.
I was gonna just say real quick that I think the fact that we had the short week last time we played you guys really affected a lot. Because from what I heard, you guys did a lot of preparing in that short amount of time. And our team didn't expect for you to throw as much at us as you did.
Yeah.
And I think that this will, even though we have kind of a short week this week because we're coming off the Monday game, I think we'll be a little more prepared, just knowing that you guys have that that your team will have that mindset, and having that extra day or two, will help.
Sure,
us.
and even with that, I mean, you had an interim head coach in our last game, so I'm not going to. And I already covered that Kubiak is back for the game, so I'm not going to go and understate the importance of that. So I still think Denver wins this game, but if San Diego can prove me wrong, then great for us. Like that's huge.
All right. Well, I think San Diego does prove you wrong.
Yes.
I think Melvin Gordon is going to have a huge game.
Oh my God.
Are you ready for this?
3
Shoot.
touchdowns.
My projected stat line for Melvin Gordon: 35 carries
Okay.
for 40 yards. And 3
4
touchdowns
touchdowns.
somehow.
I was
3.
gonna say
Okay.
40 touchdowns.
And the Chargers are going to win 21-17.
If that's the stat line Melvin Gordon gets, and I have to sacrifice that for the win, I'll do it. One terrible game, one awful game from Melvin for a win, I'll do it.
You mean
All right,
one normal game for Melvin?
No, that's pretty bad. 35 carries, 40 yards. That's terrible. He's not Trent Richardson. Come on.
I'll close this one out. In the 2 wins the Chargers have had this past 2 weeks, their little streak. They played a Denver Bronco team on a short week without their head coach. Yeah, we know that. But they've won these games by basically not making as many mistakes as their opponents, while still making the same mistakes, especially early in the games.
Yeah, that's true.
The problem is the Broncos have their head coach back. They're playing at home. They're playing angry because you just beat them and basically kind of embarrassed them because they kind of crapped themselves in that game. And they're kind of back. I don't see them losing this game, and I don't even see it being close. I'm calling it a 31-10 victory.
Oof.
I didn't want to go 21-10 because that's Chris's thing.
I can see that too, though. I would have gone that way, but I'm waiting for that score to match up one of these weeks.
Well, I'm just saying. I think the running back is going to go off. Devontae Booker, is it?
We're all overlooking too the possibility that our defense scores points, because that was a pattern
very much,
at the
'cause-
beginning of the year and last year.
And
Yeah.
Phillip does throw picks, and Melvin Gordon does like to give the ball away.
And Von Miller is due for a strip sack.
Oh no.
He's
All right,
due for
well.
about 3 this game.
Jesus.
But before we wrap up, for everybody listening, I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but we are recording on Thursday, and I just want to give everybody, a quick Blake Bortles report.
Oh, I've been watching. He looks terrible.
The Jaguars and Titans are playing Thursday Night Football. We are 12 minutes left in the second quarter, and Blake Bortles is 2 for 7 with 18 yards. So
Oh my God.
I just
Also-
wanted everybody to know.
Well, I thought you
Also,
were gonna say he was
Jalen
dead.
Ramsey already flagged for a late hit out of bounds.
Oh.
Also, a player was catching the ball because Jalen Ramsey hit the Titans receiver after he didn't catch the ball and just kind of ran his head into his helmet. He actually hit the Titans receiver into a player that was undressed on the sideline. So
Oh my God.
literally hurting his team.
Well, that
Well,
sucks.
Jeez.
No matter what happens to you, San Diego, at least you're not the Jaguars. Well, that's
I
gonna
guess
do
that'll
it.
be that's my consolation for the week.
Yeah, well, I think that's
All
going
right.
to do it for us this week. Join us again next week where you guys can make fun of all of our predictions because they're all going to be wrong. Every single one of them.